Before starting my presentation, I would like to thank each of you for making time for this event. I would like to thank Dr. Daniel and the IACD team to give me the opportunity to be here today and to share part of our local practice and experience. So I'm Joëlle Rabot-Honoré, and I'm from Mauritius, which is an island situated in the southeast coast of Africa in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Currently, I am engaged as a project coordinator at ENL Foundation, but initially I have myself been engaged as a community leader within my own community and have been engaged in the setting up of women empowerment and health promotion programs within my own community in Mauritius. So I'm really glad to be here today and to have this opportunity to share our experience. And my presentation today, which is titled Women Economic Empowerment and Community Development, takes its essence from practice on the field and will focus on the participation of women as key actors in the economic growth. So my presentation will be broken into two parts. First components will overview the status of women in economic growth globally, especially in relation to economic, in relation to women constraints. And also I will take the second part to talk about women economic empowerment in the Mauritian context and go into two specific examples of women involvement through community development. So before going through the different part of women economic empowerment, I would like to go into a definition. Although it has attracted increased attention in recent years, there is no universal agreed definition of women economic empowerment. But for this presentation, I have chosen to go at I have chosen a definition from Taylor and Perez-Neatout, which says that women economic empowerment is the process of achieving, equal access to and control over economic resources and ensuring they can use them to exert increased control over areas of their lives. I believe that this definition gives a straightforward overview of the subject, and it also emphasizes on women achieving equal access and control over economic resources, but also the importance to ensure that women have the capability to use these resources to improve their lives, that of their family and community at large. So when we talk about women and economic growth, there's a lot of evidence and report worldwide that shows that women's full participation drives economy to better perform, to become more resilient. It's a fact that if we want an inclusive and equitable economic growth, women economic empowerment is a prerequisite. But unfortunately, we are far behind. As of 2019, 53 economies did not have laws protecting women from sexual harassment in the workplace. There's an estimated annual value of $10 trillion annual value of women unpaid work. And when we are talking about unpaid work, it's about talking about women who take care of children, cooking, cleaning, fetching water and firewood, women who carry out at least 2.5 times more unpaid household and care work than men. This estimated annual value is about 13% of our global GDP. On the other hand, we have also about 104 countries that have at least one law impeding on women economic opportunities. meaning that on an average, women have just 3/4 of the legal rights afforded to women. In terms of, for example, women who are restricted to travel without the permission of a male guardian, or women who don't have access to parental leave, or issues related to pay equality. Globally, only 65% of women have a bank account, compared with 72% of men. In my next slide, I will talk about women constrained, and we will go a little bit through related to financial literacy. So this chart from OECD gives you an overview of unpaid care work performed by men and women, comparing a number of hours per day of unpaid care work done. So it shows that time spent on unpaid care work varies by gender and region. But around the world, on average, women spend more than twice as much time on unpaid care and domestic work than men. In the Middle East and North Africa and South African region, there's a biggest gap between sexes. And this can be related to social norms that plays an important role in the distribution of tasks in houses. And to be better prepared to be able to tackle that, I believe that it's important that there is a recognizing, reducing, and redistribution of unpaid domestic work, and that will be able to lead us to economic empowerment. So women face several constraints. There are the expectations around women's primary role as caregivers, as mothers, the ones who cater for elders, cater for small children, cater for the family. I already talked about the aspect of unpaid work, all the cooking, cleaning, fetching water, firewood, that also result into women having to put a lot of time into household and care work, and which result into them having less time to engage into paid labor, or having to work longer hours to tackle both unpaid care work and paid work they are doing. There's also the gender bias and stereotypes in the workplaces that limits women into going into specific posts or engaging into specific work. There's also the exclusion of women from decision-making processes, not only at workplace level, but also within their own household or within their community. The aspect of limited and no access to and control over assets, control over land, control over raw materials, ownership of land, which, for example, impede on women having access to agricultural assets, and also the limited access to training opportunities. The fact that low financial literacy also impede on women to have access to assets, for example. Lack of financial literacy also means that women don't have access to loans, can't have access to credit, can't have access to saving, can't have access to a bank account, can't use land or something else to be able to have access to other financial services. Below access to the internet at different levels, different countries, in different contexts, also impede on the ability of women to be economically independent. Lack of connectivity, lack of network also means that they have no access to or limited access to markets, to services, to other people, to buyers. In the Mauritian context, in Mauritius, what tremendous efforts has been made for the years towards gender equality. there still remains a lot to be done and there are gaps to be closed. Women still face more difficulties in obtaining a job due to structural and cultural barriers due to norms. In 2020, there were more unemployed women than men, despite unemployed women being generally more qualified than their male counterparts. In fact, women aged 16 to 24 and 25 to 29 exhibit higher participation rates in the labor market. But the older cohort of women, there's a big gap for them, most of them due to specific issues related to structural barriers to education, can't have access or don't have access to job, to secure and decent one. Men are advantaged in obtaining high skills jobs, even though more women than men attend university. So through the years, ENL Foundation has been engaged in women economic development, women economic empowerment through community development. Using community development approach, ENL Foundation, a charitable organization which was set up in January 2009, aims to empower and support vulnerable groups of Mauritius. The areas of focus of the organization is mainly into promoting living with dignity, promoting integrated neighborhood, and nurturing the next generation. Through the different fields of intervention of the organization, women empowerment, women economic empowerment specifically is one of the fields of intervention where ENLF dedicates its resources, because the organization believes that empowering women economically is a win-win that benefits the women and society at large. So the organization has been working in 5 communities around the island using community development approach and putting in place different activities. So the rest of my slide, I will dedicate it to 2 specific case studies that we've been taking for to illustrate women empowerment, women economic empowerment, and community development. As I told you in my last slide, ENL Foundation have been working a lot in community development, and we have noticed that women have a key role in community development in those 5 regions when we are working. Women are the ones who participate the most in the community development process of the regions. They are the ones who are engaged at different levels of community development projects, being at the beginning of it at different levels, since the design, the reflection, the implementation, the evaluation of the projects, and afterwards also within all pre-project evaluation implementation committees. They participate, as I told you, in also as committee leaders, as active members of community platforms, as field workers. They play an important role in the continuous thinking process, highlighting specific issues and needs using a gender lens, which is really important, taking into consideration that women have specific challenges that they face on field, and they put forward these challenges, specifically those of rural areas. So mostly the 5 regions where we are working are 5 rural areas of Mauritius, and the realities are really different from other regions. So the 2 case studies I will be talking about are about 2 projects. The first one is named Bazard Création Mokarai, and the other one is Mo Business, which illustrate women economic empowerment program set. So these 2 projects have been engaging women targeted from 5 specific communities. Based on social need analysis done in each region where community development has started, needs of women were identified, namely professional and technical training, the need for them to launch small enterprise considering the context of their area of a community, their engagement in income generating activities, considering their own skills, their own knowledge, their own innate capacities, and an increase of their own self-esteem and agency. So the first project is Bazard Classroom Mokarai. This project supports 20 unskilled and untrained women aged between 18 to 70 years old. This project has taken a different element of training, mainly life skills training as per the needs of women who wanted to have additional skills and knowledge, but allow them to better communicate, to better help themselves in terms of communicating with their clients, in terms of better also knowing themselves, knowing their strengths and weakness, to be able to engage better and become economically independent. So training have been focusing on life skills, on professional aspect. So for example, Bazard Création and Mokarai have a strong culinary art aspect that is the essence of the project. So women have been trained at that level, have received professional training at that level so that they can perfect their job. And technical training also have been provided. Through this project, what we have noticed is the fact that women's self-esteem and confidence have been boosted. Those women who were not working, who didn't have a chance to or opportunity to have access to training, just thrive throughout their path. So actually, for this project, women generate their own income by selling handmade recycled products, that are paper made, and that are sold in the shop or sold by them in expo events. And they are also using their own skills, their own knowledge, their own passion for traditional cooking. They are also involved now in the restaurant that have been created with them, for them, and a table d'hôte also, where they prepare and cook typical Mauritian dishes, allowing them to generate their own income and be able to sustain the needs of their own needs and the needs of the family. So these are pictures of the little treasures done by these women. So these are recycling, these are papers, and those women, through technical training, have been able to now manipulate paper in a way where they are doing different jewelries, different items that are now being sold locally and also at regional level. And these are pictures of the women engaged in the Bazard Mokarai, and where they use their own knowledge, their own skills, where they connect with people, where they connect among themselves through and while generating income for themselves and their family. The second case study I want to share with you is another project named Mo Business. So the project supports 50 micro entrepreneurs to launch their small and medium enterprise. 70% are women, unskilled, untrained, and working mainly in the informal sector and unable to earn a living for themselves and their family with the small amount of money they were receiving through their jobs. So the same path is being used there also. Following social needs analysis, life skills and technical training were delivered by registered schools. Throughout a specific path, women are engaged in about 10 sectors of activities identified by themselves based on their own skills, based on their own knowledge, based on their own passion. So we have women now who are engaged in hairdressing, in culinary art, in sewing, in childcare, in agriculture, in beekeeping, in animal rearing. And through all those activities, they are now thriving and generating income. This small example of one of the women who's named Janine. She's 70 years old and is a vanilla cultivator. Vanilla sticks or something or things that are really, really expensive here in Mauritius. At first, Janine was working in the agricultural sector for a long time. And through her work, through years of working in the agricultural sector, she has secured a small plot of land. With her passion for vanilla sticks, she just started to learn how to cultivate them. It's very difficult. Though we are a tropical island, it took a lot of time, a lot of time and a lot of precision also. So she invested herself in the cultivation of vanilla sticks, but at the beginning, as she didn't know how to sell her product, she was exploited by buyers who bought her products in bulk and sold it per unit at an exorbitant price. It was as though they were buying with her and selling fries on the market. After being engaged in more business projects and having the opportunity to have training and access to some other resources, Mrs. Janine decided to launch her own business for herself, her business which is now called Vania Maurice. And she has now been able to secure her own market. And she's the one who now negotiates her own price directly to buyers. Another small example related to my business is Mrs. Katie, who is a hairdresser and who was working for someone else and could not earn a living for her and her family also with a small amount of money she was receiving. Through her path and after herself discovering her own talents, her own potential, her own strength, she decided to launch her own salon, hairdressing salon at her place. She now owns a small salon which is situated within her own house. She has followed technical training, allowing her to expand her services. Apart from doing hairdressing now, she now does waxing, makeup, and reach more clients. And she is the main breadwinner of her family, being able now to generate income and sustain her own family. So what is the impact of women economic empowerment on the community? Working through a community development approach, we have seen that women are able to contribute and respond to the household needs, specifically in the time of COVID, where the informal sector has been impacted here in Mauritius. A lot of people lost their job, and a lot of men, for example, a lot of husbands lose their job who were working in the informal sector, lost their job. So the contribution of women being engaged in small enterprise, in their own small enterprise, or women being engaged in income generating activities allow them also to contribute, to be able to respond to the needs of their families, to the needs of the children. Women also gain in agency They are able now to speak for themselves. They are able to voice out their own needs, regaining self-esteem and confidence, and further engage meaningfully in the development in their own community. Most of the women I've been talking about as example, those engaged in basal creation or those engaged in basal mokaran, or even the two ladies I talk about, are people who now are giving back to the community. It allows also the creation of a better sense of connection between community members as gaps are fulfilled within the community. For example, when micro-entrepreneurs are being identified within the community development of a region, these micro-entrepreneurs go forward with a needs analysis of their own community first. They start with a SWOT analysis, which allows them not only to see the strength, weakness, opportunities, threats of their own project, but also to see what are the avenues of collaboration, what are the avenues of development, what are the avenues of networking within their own community. So micro-entrepreneurs not only come forward with businesses to make profit, they also identify problems within their community and come forward with entrepreneurial solutions. For example, in one of the community, women entrepreneurs identified that there were a lack of food facility, a lack of basic food within the region, basic food access, a lack of childcare facilities preventing women to go to work. 5 of the micro-entrepreneurs engage in setting up small food facilities, and 1 also engage in going into child minding, allowing therefore women to go to work and having a place, a secure one, where they can leave their children. In addition, women economic empowerment also impact on the community in a way where community economic development happens. There's a creation of jobs inside the community itself, employment within the community, events within the community where community members can gather, talk not only about businesses, but also about problems, about gaps that can be filled by community members themselves, by small micro-entrepreneurs, by people coming together, by people connecting, by networking. There's a creation of more formal economic empowerment structures, with micro businesses being registered as companies and all cooperatives. On the other side, women are also becoming role models. They are the ones who are thriving within the community and are the ones who are acting as mentors for others. It's about not only about being the role model, but it's also about building on the strength of existing resources, people in the community itself, people who can share about their experiences, about not only gaps, about challenges, about victories, about how they are going forward with their projects. So to conclude with that presentation, I have chosen a quote from the Executive Director of UN Women that illustrates well, I believe, why we need as community development practitioners to promote women economic empowerment, as it is a level of change. So she says, there is no great force for change, for peace, for justice and democracy, for inclusive economic growth than a world of empowered women. Women economic empowerment, as it is a process, is an ongoing learning curve. And while through this pandemic period, we are facing a lot of difficulties. We see women facing a lot of difficulties. We also observe that women have resilience, and that resilience will be tested on an everyday basis. That women are building a lot through their own strength to move forward, to be able to generate income for themselves and for their families and for the community at large. So I thank you for your time and for your attention, and hope I've been able to share a bit about our own experiences of women economic empowerment in Mauritius. Thank you.
Thank you, Joëlle. Well, colleagues, that was the presentation. So congratulations for the good work that you are doing. The first question that was raised in the chat is from Abbas Saidu, who is asking what is the best tool to assess gender imbalance on various skills acquisition. Well, of course, Joëlle is leading the discussion, but many of us are experts in this field. So let's not feel constrained that it is only Joëlle who should respond. Equally, we could also share from our perspectives. We are all community development practitioners in our own right. So that's the first question. I'd also, the second comment or question, just trying to find out what is being done from a policy framework in Mauritius in terms of mainstreaming women's economic empowerment in Mauritius. So possibly, Joëlle, you could start with those two as we also get the others posted on the chat. But equally, as I indicated, we all can comment. We have wide experience also in the same field, so that again we can also share our knowledge and the insights based on our experiences. Joëlle, you can take the floor.
Yes. Thanks a lot to all of you for your attention and for your questions also, and for your comments. Just going back into it and looking at them actually. So I will take the first question. So what are the best tools to assess gender imbalance on various skills acquisition? I will not go into the gender imbalance aspect, really. The tools, I believe, as you are telling Daniel, if there's anyone who can share a little bit about that, it can be great. But taking into consideration our own experience related to various skills acquisition, I believe that for us, it's all about assessing field needs. We are a lot into going into needs analysis. So we tend to use our, we tend to remain in contact and take into consideration the needs of our women through specific and ongoing thinking processes that are done on field at different levels. So related to various skills acquisition, if we need to assess the needs of the women and how we can respond to it, it's all about looking at their own needs and trying to looking at their own needs, looking at the skills they already have, and looking at the skills that they need and knowledge that they need, and trying to put them into contact with different organizations where they can acquire more skills and knowledge itself. I don't know if I respond actually totally to the question, but I take more a practical perspective of the thing, of the question itself. And related to the second question asked by about, is there any government, what is government doing at policy level to mainstream women economic empowerment? So on our side, as we are from the private sector, we tend to collaborate a lot with we are from the private sector, we tend to collaborate with the public sector related to different schemes that are being put in place, and also different engagement taken by the different ministry working at gender and family level. So there are specific organizations that have been set up and that tend to focus on women economic empowerment, providing different programs, life skills, technical skills, referral to buyers, depending on what for example, if women are engaged in the making of jewelries or making of baskets or something like that, traditional things. So also how to market their goods. So yes, the government is putting different things in place at their level too, so that the women empowerment, women economic empowerment can become mainstream within the country itself.
Possibly a quick one is from Dishut from South Africa. He's asking whether you have a government department that is in charge of women's issues. I heard you mentioned gender and family. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you
could
we
just have actually a ministry.
What it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the name of the ministry, for instance? The government office in charge of women issues.
It's the Ministry of Gender, actually, and Family Affairs.
Okay, thank you. Dishut, do you want to any follow-up on the same question, possibly?
Sorry?
You want me to do it over there? Yes. The problem we often see across the world, where we have departments, political departments or ministries, that the other departments pass over the work into that department, to that department, and it doesn't become mainstreamed in all the other departments. So if I'm in the Department of Public Works and Department of whatever, education, they tend to say women's issues is that department's problem, not mine. And so you sort of defer the issue and it doesn't become so mainstreamed at where we would like it to be.
Okay, I think that's a valid comment, Dishut, and because there has been the sense that having a special purpose department largely to spearhead the mainstreaming of gender issues or even women issues ends up having a counter effect of marginalizing or further marginalizing attention to the same issue that needed to be mainstreamed. And of course, that's apparent in very many of the countries where we have specific departments, because then the matter becomes minimized and localized to that particular department rather than being integrated and mainstreamed in all the departments that have any aspect that relates to women's empowerment or women gender empowerment in the countries or in the government programs, so that then we end up with solutions that are integrated rather than minimizing them and localizing them to specific departments. In any case, many of the issues that relate to gender empowerment and women's empowerment are cross-cutting, and therefore they may not necessarily be boxed in one government department or agency, and that remains a challenge, so to speak.
And so, what are the main things that I have learned? Me personally, having been in one of those projects for 2 years, is that the strength and the ideas and the passion came from people themselves, from the women themselves. It's first of all about triggering that passion, that strength, and that allowing them to discover their own skill, their own star, and allowing them to be able to see what they have as their own capacity. Most of the time, what I've seen is that these women, they are very resilient. They face a lot of troubles in their own life, everyday life, and some of them just put aside what they have as skills, as knowledge, what they already know, what are the traditional skills that they already have. You just put them aside to face their everyday struggles. I believe what I've learned is that the first thing of all is about allowing these women to be able to just voice out, let that passion, skills, let them themselves rediscover. It's not about discovering. It's not about building that, but it's about strengthening what they already have within themselves and allowing them to be able to just put that before putting that in the limelight. So one of the lessons is that as people, practitioners, as community development practitioners, about really putting forward the strength of those women and allowing them to, giving them the opportunity, like the opportunity to voice out their own needs and voice out what they have, and put forward their own skills, their own knowledge, and afterwards also allowing them to network, to be able to, within their community, to mingle with each other and to be able to see the forces of working together, forces of connecting together. Yeah, I believe these are those first things that came to my mind, actually, because there's such a lot, and it's, as I was telling, it's a learning curve. We are, we are, I believe, at the NL Foundation, always learning every day. It's a new step. It's a new way of seeing things. It's a new way of actually looking at how we as practitioners practice on field, and it's an ever evolving field. And as women economic development is a process, I believe we move with those people, with women through the process also, and at each level, at different level, and this process taking into consideration different things, the goals of them wanting to create their own enterprise and generating income for the family, but also the reality of what is happening every day and what is happening actually with COVID, for example, which impact them every day. So it's a process, it's a learning curve, and I'm just like open to that growing and learning path. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alan, and thank you, Joëlle, for the response. I think we are coming to the end of the hour that's scheduled for this session and our webinar, the 9th edition of our webinar. Any final comment? And of course, as the final comment comes in, of course, let me just make an observation again. As Alan has just indicated, meeting 3 years back, of course, that was during the WCDC and those become important points of contact for IACD membership. Many of the colleagues I'm seeing on the screen, many of them I met during the WCDCs in the past, and I'm glad that the connection continues. Any final comment, any final observation? The floor is open. Yes, Jennifer.
But I thank Joel, because what we learned from our partners in Kenya was the point about the circular economy, that by encouraging small enterprises, which you've highlighted, it actually benefited the whole community. And we're struggling with this here in Wales, in my community, but it was great to hear you talking about that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jennifer. So I think Jennifer becomes the final comment observation. You can come to the end of this session, and I take the opportunity to invite you to the 10th edition of our webinar series, where we'll be talking about social inclusion and community development. Of course, we'll be sending out more information as we get close to that, but we are glad that we're able to find time and participate in this 9th edition of IACD Sub-Saharan Africa region webinar. Thank you very much, and enjoy the remainder of your day. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you all.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you, Joëlle.